Thank you. As Alexander said, I was in the Max Planck Institute for many years. I did my postdoc here in 2004 to 2006, and also back to the Max Planck Institute from 2011 until the very end of the ABC group. Have you guys know the history of the ABC group a little bit? Okay, so Gerd used to be my boss, and he retired, and the group was kind of gone, and now the torch has been passed to Ralph. Okay, after ABC, I moved back to my home country, China. Now I'm a professor at the university, at the Chinese Academy of Science, and it's at the Institute of Psychology. Recently, I just started my small group. It's called Risk and Uncertainty Management, ROM. Currently, just a small plug. We want postdocs. If you're interested in decision science in all kinds of areas, risk, group, individual decision making, welcome to talk to me after the talk. Okay, so with some small crowds, this is the way I see how intelligence works. In this, so far, you've listened to many talks about individual decision making, how we can use heuristics and different strategies to cope with the uncertainty and risk in the real world, right? It's one way. The other way is to use other people's help to engage social intelligence. Sometimes we know only limited things. We can do only limited things. We have to enlist other people to help us to be rational, to be intelligent. So that's the main reason why I shifted my research attention from individual to groups about 7, 8 years ago. And this is a joint project with Stefan Herzog, who you're gonna encounter in the afternoon session for the workshop. Okay, before I formally introduce the research, I want to ask you guys to tell me who those people are. Supreme Courts. Those from the US will recognize the faces immediately. And how many of them? They're called the justices, right? There are 9 of them. And they are the ultimate decision-making in terms of law in the US. Okay. Do you recognize those people? The first one, you see the name, you say, okay, yeah. This is the executive board of Apple Inc. And those are the people who are responsible for all kinds of strategic decisions with the company. And here's a similar one from the Germany side. This is the executive board, a board of management of Volkswagen AG. And how many of them? Around 9. Very interestingly, this is a very German thing. Lots of them have doctorate degrees, right? 2/3 of them have doctorate degrees. And this is something I learned by living in Germany. They respect knowledge very much. And if you have a doctorate degree, that sort of conveys authority. All right. And this is another from political side. You know, in the US, you have the House and the Senate, right? But you have all kinds of subcommittees who are actually running, making all these important decisions because it's really hard to get all 500, 100 people together to make decisions. This is one subcommittee on national security, headed by this guy, and you have different members from different parties. Altogether, together with the chairman, it's about 10. Okay, one last example. Those people look very different from the business and just law and political people. They look kind of like scientists, right? So this is an example of SF review panels, okay? And they are more like us. Okay, in this picture, there are about 10 of them. So I give you those examples. There are more. I mean, I just don't want to drag so long. To show this point, many high-stake decisions in the real world are not made by one person or lots of people. Actually, they're made by small committees consisting of around 9 people. Just think about Supreme Court. Actually, I checked the average size of the executive boards for Fortune 100 or 500 companies is about 10 to 11, slightly above 9.
Is
Young Garrett?
True in China?
What?
Is this also true in China?
You just spoiled the ending of the talk. Okay, keep that in your mind. I'll get back to Young Garrett's point. Okay, so let's think about for a moment, why not larger? Well, there's some practical concerns, right? Small committees are quicker to assemble, and there's a lower coordination cost. You have only 9, 10 people, it's much easier to coordinate than to coordinate 100 and more. But the most important reason behind this, which has been running throughout human civilization, is called elitist thinking. Okay, so this guy is a Danish philosopher. His name is Søren Kierkegaard, and he, like many his peers during the 17th, 18th, and 19th century, make this statement: truth always rests with the minority, always. I'll spare the rest part. Well, the strength of a majority is illusory. Basically, you cannot trust the commoners because they're kind of have no opinion, have little opinion, have the wrong opinion. You cannot trust it. You have to trust the minority who holds the truth. There are lots of similar writings in the old times. However, opinion like his opinion has increasingly become the minority. Especially after the publication of this book, it's called The Wisdom of Crowds, written by James Surowiecki, who's a staff writer for the New Yorker magazine, and was published in 2004. When I first got hold of this book, I just couldn't drop it. This is like a page turner for me, right? It's very interesting. In the book, he showed many examples, very interesting examples, why the aggregated judgments by a group of people or by a crowd are more accurate than individuals. Many examples. And the main reason behind this is that we all have errors in our own judgments, right? If we have a large enough group, the errors will tend to cancel each other out. The earliest and the most famous example of the wisdom of crowds happened and recorded by somebody in 1906. There's a publication in the journal called Nature. Okay, it happened in Plymouth, England, and at this so-called the West England Fat Stock and Poultry Exhibition. Quite common during that era. Okay, during this exhibition, it's kind of an interesting thing to get the crowd involved. It's a weight judge contest. In this contest, there's an ox. You have to estimate the weight of the ox after it was slaughtered, and very interesting English word, dressed. Do we have British people here in the audience? Okay, what does that mean, dressed?
I'm not sure.
Are you sure you're a true Brit? Okay, all right.
Trimmed, like cleaned off the...
That's true. Yeah, it's basically, ox is ox, but there are lots of parts of the ox cannot be used, right? You have to skin it, you have to remove the internal organs, and the thing left after that is called the dressed ox. Okay. Okay, interesting word, dressed. All right. Anyway, any person can purchase a ticket to enter the contest, and about 800 people did so. This is just a regular thing happened in a regular exhibition, but this time was different. There was a guest, a famous guest in the audience. His name is Francis Galton. Galton was famous for many things and also infamous for something as well. He's a psychologist and statistician who was very keen in measuring things. And also, he's a strong proponent for eugenics. All right. He was there for, I don't know for what reason, but he collected all the ticket stubs. To enter the contest, you have to fill the numbers, right? He persuaded the organizer to give him the stubs. As a result, he can have a view of what kind of judgments people are putting there, and are they good? What's the variation? What he found out is there's a kind of a big variation among the judgments, ranging from 1,050 pounds to 1,300 pounds. Remember, he's a eugenist, right? He didn't believe. He was like Kierkegaard. He didn't believe the intelligence of the majority. He didn't trust them. He was set to show how stupid or ignorant most people in the crowds were by showing how off their actual judgments from the true value. And judging from this, you say, okay, there's a big range and there's only one true value, so most people must be wrong, right? Then, as a statistician, he went a step further. He calculated the average, and also he did calculate the median. The median turns out to be not good as good as the average, although it's still very good. The average among all these 800 people is about 1,197 pounds. And what is the true weight after the ox was dressed? So Gordon was so disappointed, right? He was set out to show the ignorant, the untrustworthy of the majority. But after aggregate their estimate, the estimate turns out to be so good. As a scientist, reluctantly, he still reported his finding in the journal Nature. Okay, so this is one earliest and most famous demonstration of the wisdom of crowds. And after that, in modern days, in lots of psychology classes or business classes, teachers like to do this kind of experiment, right? They bring a jar with jelly beans or marbles and ask the students to estimate. I would not treat you as a typical college or school student, so I didn't bring such a jar. But, okay, it's always said to demonstrate, individually, we all make mistakes, but collectively, if we take the average or the median, the result can be really good. And that can be explained by a very simple model. You assume each individual's estimation consists of two components, truth plus error. That's it. And if you assume the errors have a distribution like this, normally distributed with a mean at 0, and if you have large enough of a crowd, eventually those errors will cancel each other out, and you have the truth. Very simple. However, that's based on the assumption of this kind of distribution, right? 0, mean at 0, and also independent. If there are some systematic or correlated errors, that would not work, or would not work as well as that situation. Okay, so this is on the judgment side, and this has been shown repeatedly in many, many different examples. You can actually get the wisdom of crowds by having a larger crowd. How about decisions? We call ourselves researchers in judgment and decision making, right? How about decisions? Actually, regarding to decision, there's even a tradition or argument run well before Galton's time or the wisdom of crowds time. There's a theorem called the Condorcet jury theorem, and it was named after this French philosopher and mathematician in the 18th century. And lots of people credited the Condorcet jury theorem as a mathematical underpinning of modern democracy system. Why is that? The theorem argues, given there are two opinions, or two options, one of them can be shown to be correct in the later time. And the average accuracy of all individuals in a crowd or group is above chance, just about 50%. And each individual decides independently. And it's really hard to define what do you mean by independently, but for the sake of argument, let's assume it's the same as statistical independence. And the simple majority rule is applied for the crowd decision. If all those conditions fulfill, you get this. You can show mathematically the accuracy of crowd decision will approach 1 with the increasing crowd size. So it will just keep increasing. If you have a large enough crowd, you will definitely discover the truth. Just to show you a simple demonstration, this is a crowd of 51 people. And let's assume the proportion of correct individuals for single decision, for this one particular decision, is 2/3, 67%. And using some very simple mathematical calculations, we can get the expected crowd accuracy for any size of the group from 1 to 51. And after that, we can plug a function. And it looks like this. It supports Condorcet theorem. I mean, it's kind of very clear. What I want to show here is this. Remember, at the beginning we said small committees of around 9 people, right? And this is the accuracy of 9. It's about 88, 87. And compared to a larger group of 51 or even 33, there's still quite a lot to gain, right? So larger crowds are definitely better than small crowds here. But this is not the only situation that can happen in the real world. Only 2/3 of the people make the right choices, right? How about the following 3 situations? The first one is if we have 90% of people in the crowd are making the right decision. What does the curve look like? This. Basically, after 5 people, you've already got 100% accuracy. If you do some simple kind of base calculation, it has to be the case. But how about the other 2 cases? Not all the times the majority is correct. Sometimes we have the so-called wicked decisions, in which most people will get it wrong. 2 situations, 10% and 33%. 10% is the mirror image of 90%, right? The crowd is doomed to make the wrong decision. Because if 90% of the crowd are making the wrong decision, if we use a simple majority, it's doomed to happen. And how about 33, which is a mirror image from 67? In that case, by mathematical expectation, small crowds will have a higher accuracy than the larger crowd. Why? So mathematical accuracy is calculated based on random selection of crowd members, right? You select many of them and you take the average. Think about the process. Let's see, if you do it for 45, and 33% of them are correct, but you have 45, and the majority will be wrong. It's sort of like, it's similar to 10%, almost 100% of times, you will get the majority that is wrong. But you have a small group, just by chance. Sometimes you can get the majority of the small crowd that are correct. Can you imagine that? Okay, that can happen with smaller crowds, and that will not happen with larger crowds. Okay. What I want to argue is this. From the previous demonstrations, it's all about single decisions. We're talking about just like, let's make a one-shot decision, right? We have a particular crowd, and certain proportion of people are correct in this crowd. From the previous examples, we see when there's a single decision at stake, larger crowds are only helpful in the 67% scenario. That means the intermediate majority of people are correct. You can see the curve increasing quite a lot. But this is not the real world, right? In the real world, think about the Supreme Court, the Apple executive board, or the national, the subcommittee on national security, they're not only making one decision, they're making a series of decisions, multiple decisions. Some of the decisions will have a curve like this. Some of the decisions will have a curve like that. Now we're talking about a distribution in terms of the difficulty levels of the decisions they're facing, right? And we know, and we can easily imagine in the real world, the majority cannot be correct on all the decisions. Okay? And they are correct with different proportions. What if that happens? What if we look at the decision-making intelligence, accuracy of a crowd with a multiple decision horizon? I start the investigation with an eye of the real world. And I turned my attention to one of my favorite sports. I was studying in the States for 5 years, so I acquired the American taste for the wrong type of football. We'll go back to the real football. Okay, so this, the American football, right? This is the National Football League, which is the most popular sports league in the US by revenue. And it's purely American. Okay, what is interesting about NFL is this. In the regular season, there are 32 teams. Altogether, they played 256 games. Because it's such a big sports league, and Americans are so obsessed with the sports, every week during the season, all the national news outlets, including ESPN, Fox, CBS, ABC, you name it, right? They all have their own in-house experts to give readers their picks for the incoming week games. I see you're American. Yeah, you're nodding. You're not?
Australian would do the same.
For the Australian Aussie rugby?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And here's a screenshot of the predictions by the 5 experts working for CBS. Here, this is a matchup. The first one is Philadelphia Eagles against Buffalo Bills. I mean, you will be confused by those logos, but us fans will recognize the logos immediately, like this, the strong association. Okay. All right, so among the 5 experts, 4 of them picked the Eagles. Philadelphia Eagles gonna win the matchup. And 1, Richard, picked the Bills. And sometimes you have unanimous selection. Sometimes you have a rather split this one. All right? Okay, the experts are not so sure, which team gonna win. That offered me a natural testing bed for the idea of a bunch of people making repeated decisions, not only decisions, better, predictions, okay? And I went out to collect many of those predictions. And it spans from 2005, 6 to 2015. Actually, in the past year, I've been so busy with my new job. We collected the most two recent years, 2016 and 17. We haven't got the time to analyze it. And we also have a larger crowd. It's about 100 experts in each season. But so far, we're talking about the 7 seasons, right? On average, we have about 46 individuals, experts, making the picks on 256 games. Altogether, we have around 1,700, not around, precisely 1,792 games. Okay, the first thing I did, remember, my key argument is when a group of people making multiple decisions, those decisions can vary in terms of difficulty levels, right? And the difficulty level is defined by the proportion of individuals actually made the right choices. And for the NFL task, we know that. After they make the selections, the game happens, and we know the outcome. So the first thing we did is to plot the difficulty level distribution among those games. And this is defined by the percentage of correct individual. So I divide this histogram into 4 parts. The first part is on the right. Those are what we call the super easy games. Over 90% of the experts made the right picks. Okay? And they are, as you can see, there are quite lots of them, right? On the left side are the games we call super wicked. Think about it. Only 5 to 10% of experts made the right choices. And probably those are the games are so-called upsets. And those are the games that make the sports interesting, right? Like Argentina lost to, all right, it's painful. Oh, Germany. Okay, so those games are still below 50%, and somehow wicked. They're still wicked games, right? The majority was wrong. And this part is the part what we call crowd helpful. Remember, based on the analysis of single decisions, the larger crowds will be super helpful when an intermediate majority of people make the right choice, right? The curve is keep climbing. Okay. By this partition, if you still remember, on the two sides, there's very little difference between a small crowd and large crowds, right? They're all going to make either the right decision or the wrong decision. No difference. And here, small crowds will be better than the larger crowds because the larger the crowd becomes, the more the group going to be destined to make the wrong choice. Only here, a larger crowd will help. So what's going to happen if we put them together? Okay, before I show the results, I have to give some definition. The first thing we did is to investigate so-called arbitrary crowds. So for each season, we have the so-called fixed crowd, consisting of all the experts making picks in that particular season. For each game, we calculate mathematically the expected accuracy of arbitrary crowds whose members are randomly selected from the whole crowd of people. And we vary the size from 1 to n, the whole crowd size. And under each side, crowd accuracy is the average accuracy of the crowd across all 256 games. I know it's a little bit too much to digest. Just trust us. Basically, we randomly draw crowds from a particular whole crowd for the whole season, and we calculate the expected accuracy of the arbitrary crowd with size ranging from 1 to n. Okay. I first did some simulations to get the curves. Then we discovered others actually mathematical ways to calculate it. So eventually we moved from simulations to calculations. I didn't expect curves like this. It go up, go down, go up again. All this go up, go down at the very end, and go up. All like this. All like this. It's a single pick function. Go up and go all the way down. And those three are more like, monotonically increasing function. Among the 7 seasons, only 3 seasons show a clear monotonic increasing function of accuracy of size. Okay, think back to the Condorcet theorem. It says if the average accuracy of individuals in a crowd is above chance, and the larger the crowd, the more accurate. The larger the size of the crowd, the more accurate the crowd. So we were expecting a monotonically increasing function. But no, only in 3 of the 7 seasons, it was monotonically increasing. Okay, and the main reason behind it, it's just like what we did the analysis at the beginning. There are different types of decisions the crowd are facing. all right? Not all of them are beneficial for a larger crowd. Okay, the reason why we have 7 seasons is that we can average them out to counterbalance some idiosyncratic factors for a particular season. So this is the average across the 7 seasons. It stopped at 27 because in 2012, we get only 27 experts. Okay, nonetheless, this is the function from 1 to 27 of the crowd accuracy. The difference, this is the difference between a crowd size of 9 and crowd size of 27. It may appear big here, but if you look at the vertical axis, the difference is about 0.02 percentage point. Okay? Another way to show the results, we do not get bothered by the varying size factor, is to calculate the ratio between the accuracy of a small crowd and the accuracy of the whole crowd in any season, and then we take the average. Okay? So if the whole crowd get accuracy of 70%, and if a small crowd get accuracy of 63%, the efficiency will be 90%, right? 63 over 70. So this is how the result looks like. E5 is the efficiency of a small crowd of 5. E13 is the efficiency of a small crowd of 13. From 5, you can see it's already above 99% of the whole crowd accuracy. It climbs gradually but slowly. At 13, it's about 99.5, a little bit higher, and it will increase, of course, all the way to 1. But the point is this. Even with a small crowd of 5, remember we're talking about arbitrary crowds, randomly selected people, the efficiency is about 99%. You may say, okay, this is only one task, right? This NFL task is quite difficult. It may have its own unique characteristics. We have to do another task to show how and whether this is general. Well, we do have a second task. And do you know this task? City comparison? Okay, you should. Which city is more popular, Chicago or Boston?
Chicago.
Hong Kong or Singapore? Munich, Frankfurt? The right answer is always the left one, the first one. Okay, anyway, after GERS sort of started this paradigm, city size comparison, there are lots of other people doing all kinds of variations of this task. There's a group in Germany who are really keen in doing this kind of study, and they run many, many experiments. And we contact them, we get 9 data sets from different experiments from them. What is nice about this experiment is, in each experiment, they ask people to judge a series of city pairs, like this. Right? You see, on average, they ask people to judge 118 different pairs. And like in any psychology experiments, we have a certain number of subjects, right? They are all making judgments on the same bunch of pairs. And we can run our group or crowd analysis in each of them. Okay? Although traditionally the data were only analyzed individually, but in this case, actually, if you think about your own experiments, you can run that in your own experiments as well. You show the same stimuli, decisions, or predictions to your subjects, and you have a bunch of subjects. You can easily calculate the wisdom of the crowds among your subjects. Okay, that's what we did. Okay, the average number of subjects for those 9 data sets is about 60. Okay, like in the NFL task, we first get this difficulty level distribution. It looks quite different from the other one, right? And we can see here, not so many city pairs are that easy anymore. But not so many pairs are not that difficult anymore either. And the mid-session, the crowd helpful sessions, actually it's not that easy to say, but the proportion is significantly larger than here. So based on our previous analysis, we would expect larger crowds would work better for the city pair comparison task because the proportion of cases here is larger. And okay, this is what happened in each of the 9 data sets. Among the 9 data sets, 5 of them actually show strong monotonic, actually they are monotonically increasing functions, okay? But what is key to our results is this, the efficiency, right? Compared to the NFL task, efficiencies are lower and larger crowds helps more, it's increased more. But nonetheless, if you look at E5, it's already larger than 96 efficiency-wise. And if you have a 13, it's larger than 98%. Okay, so you may say, oh, that's not as good as NFL. Well, not all tasks like the NFL tasks, right? So sometimes small crowds can help more, sometimes they help a little bit less. 2 tasks. And so far, you know the concept of ecological rationality, right? 2 tasks are not enough to give us the whole picture of the relationship between an argument and the environment, right? So we run out of our wits to collect more similar data sets. So we rely on computer simulations. One thing I didn't tell you is if you go back to look at the difficulty distribution, both of the distributions can be fitted very well by beta distributions. If you do know what beta distributions look like, this is how they look like. It's defined by 2 parameters, alpha and beta, and it's about probability, so it's bounded between 0 and 1. And you have all kinds of shapes depending on the values of alpha and beta. They are really nice for simulation and for fitting for probability distributions in the real world. Okay, so we randomly generated 3,253 beta distributions. There are certain rules how we generate them. That's the reason why we have such odd number. But nonetheless, each beta distribution can be regarded as a task with a certain difficulty level distribution. Question?
Before you move on to that, in this case, we can only just.
Yeah, you can interrupt. No problem. I'll allow you. Go.
So the question is, in the NFL case, they are predicting a one-shot sort of game, right? So it could be like the chances of an upset are much larger than, for instance, predicting the NBA Finals, where they have 7 games.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
So what do you think you would see in that case?
For the NBA Finals, I mean, I'm also an avid fan of NBA, although I don't look like. Okay, but the thing is, how much do you know the NBA? A lot?
They're very tall.
They're very tall. Okay. How about the games?
Yeah, I follow that.
Okay, it's kind of a consensus opinion. If you have a best of 7 series, the better team will very much likely to win in the end. So basically, it's a statistical thing, right? For one shot, there's lots of noise, but for 7-game series, the better team should win in the end. But there are upsets in the history of NBA Finals. For example, in 2004, the Lakers were very strong, and they're facing the Pistons, the Detroit Pistons in the finals. And the Pistons had no superstar, while the Lakers had 4 of them, the F4, okay? But the Pistons upset the Lakers. And there are other upsets in the history of NBA as well. So it's not like, in a best of 7 series, you would not see upsets. No, otherwise the sports would be boring. Nobody would watch the finals. And also the most recently, the 2016 Golden State Warriors against the Cavaliers, right? The Cavaliers come back from 1-3, what's it called?
Deficit, whatever.
Yeah, anyway, they come back and they beat the Warriors in the 7th game. So there are upsides.
Yeah, sure. No, but my question was basically, the prediction would be that in that sort of environment, you would see much higher accuracy. Would you agree on that?
Okay.
And maybe it's an
okay.
Extension to the
I get your point.
To the project.
It's higher accuracy for larger crowds, and also it's higher accuracy for small crowds.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, yeah, exactly.
So it's like those super easy cases. Remember the 90% cases where the crowds can already reach 100% accuracy around 5 or 6, 7, 9. So it's kind of useless to have more people in the crowds.
So, just my question was very simple. Like, would you agree on saying that if we have repeated self-draws, like in that case, we should see like everything having higher accuracy?
Having accuracy, but
whether you thought about actually checking that with data. That was my question.
okay, I got your point. Okay, the one thing, even when we wrote the paper, it's kind of tricky. It's not about absolute accuracy. When we talk about with some small crowds, it's not about absolute accuracy. It's always about relative accuracy to the larger crowds. Both crowds can be really good or can be really bad. What we care is the efficiency, right? It's the ratio between the accuracy of a small crowd and the accuracy of the larger crowds. So how much efficiency we can get from a small crowd? It's always relative. Okay, let's move on, and we can get back to this point later. Okay, so we run a large-scale simulations, and in each distribution, beta distribution, we simulated a whole crowd of 51 individuals, or we also simulated 101, or even larger, but that takes more time to run the simulation. The results are very similar. And we calculate the efficiencies of different small size, just like we did for the NFL and the city task. And here is not a very intuitive heat map, all right? When we submitted our paper, and one of the reviewers said I couldn't understand the heat map. So obviously it requires some, okay, but it's kind of easy. So each point in the heat map is a distribution. It's defined by the variance and mean of the distribution, which is the same as alpha and beta, okay? So this graph consists of 3,253 points, and any point in the graph shows the efficiency of a small crowd of 9 compared to 51. And here we show this bar. It says the darker the color, the lower the efficiency, and the brighter the color, the higher the efficiency. Because this is simulation, in some rare cases, we do get efficiency higher than 1, but they are really rare, okay? But what you are looking at is basically a larger, grander perspective of what happened among those environments. Basically, we can draw the conclusion. Small crowds work well in most of the environments, but this part, right? And this part is defined by, lower variance, and with the mean around here, 60 to 70. What's the mean? It's the mean of the difficulty level of the decisions in the task, okay? Just to give you a concrete impression of how those distributions look like. They look like this. Low variance means more symmetric, okay? And mean is in the middle. We try to think about real-world tasks that can have such distribution, and we cannot imagine. Think about it. This kind of distribution requires, okay, you have thousands of decisions. Most of the decisions the intermediate majority of the people will make the right choices, and very few of them make the wrong choices, or very few of them make the correct choices. Okay? So basically, most of the decisions are hovering around the intermediate difficulty level. Okay. So what we are seeing here is small crowds do not work well in all environments. They work better in most of the environments shown in the graph with a little bit higher variance and with mean of the difficulty level more on the side, right? Above, let's see, 80% or around here. And here we can map. This is what the distribution of the NFL task looks like, and this is the distribution of the city task looks like. Okay? All right. This is kind of like the ecological rationality analysis of the small crowd wisdom. So far, we've been talking about the arbitrary crowds. What happened to the select crowds, where you do not choose people randomly, but choose people by some kind of criteria? And this is closer to what's happening in the real world, right? Those justices do not get chosen randomly from all the Americans. All the executives are randomly chosen from all the Apple employees, right? So think of arbitrary crowds as a baseline, right? We blindly choose people and we compose them as a small deciding crowds. And select crowds are more purposeful, are more deliberate. Okay. For the NFL task, we test this. We divide basically the 256 games into two halves. First, 108, and second. For the first one, what we did very simple. We just calculate all the experts' accuracy on the first 128 games, and we chose the top N individual. We can vary the N from 1 to all the way to the whole crowd. And we let this crowd, composing of those top performing individuals, to predict what's going to happen in the second half of the season, and we can get the crowd's accuracy. Clear? Okay, it's kind of like a cross-validation process in the crowds. This is what happened to the city and NFL task in terms of efficiency. For the NFL task, select crowd members do not really help. Okay? The best size is 9. It's only a little bit above 1. 1 is the accuracy of the whole crowd, right? And if you get 5, 7s, they're all hovering around this very narrow band from 985 to 102, something like that. Very narrow. So selection does not help the NFL task. But on the other side, selection really helped the city task. I didn't show what happened to 1 and 3 because they're not as good as 5. 5 is the best you can get, and it has an efficiency about 1.08. Anything above 1, that means it's better than the whole crowd. And here, if you have a 13, it's still about 105. Okay, selection really works for the city task, but not really for the NFL task. Why?
Because for the city task, you have a real ability that people just know more cities, and they have more experience. But for the NFL, like this upsets is something technology can't have, or?
It's close.
With the city examples, from what I remember, it was the opposite. It was the people that knew less about the cities that predicted the cities right.
Do not misguide it by this. Yeah, in general, you still do better when you know more. Yeah. Sometimes the recognition heuristic will kick in, but lots of times the heuristic doesn't apply. Okay, so what we find is actually this. The two different tasks, they differ a lot in the range of accuracy among the individuals. Remember, for the NFL task, we collect data on the experts, right? They are all similar to each other. and probably bounded by the difficulty level of the task itself. There's only so much you can predict, right? So as a result, the variation, the range of individual accuracy is quite low. But for the city task, you have people who know quite a lot. You have people who know very little. The range is really high. Okay? So if you have a group of people with whom the better ones are really good and the bad ones are really bad, do you want to select the better ones? Of course, it makes sense to select those better ones to make decisions for you, right? If you have a group of people whose expertise or knowledge vary very little, it doesn't matter whether you select them deliberately by some criteria or randomly. And that's the reason why we observe different efficiency pictures for the NFL and city tasks. Yeah?
Quick clarifying question. I'm just a little bit confused because those NFL graphs with the crowd size, they tended to go up, right? Or the graphs with the crowd. Like
Yeah.
sorry. But one of the first graphs you showed us is when the accuracy, individual accuracy is very low, then the crowd will be doing worse, so the graph will go down. One of the first slides you showed, you know? So when the individual accuracy was below 0.5.
Yeah.
So why did the NFL graph go up while it's supposed to go down?
Okay. Not really supposed to go down. What happened is this, let's all go back to look at the distribution of the difficulty levels. Remember the NFL one, right? There are some cases the going down really happened. Having a larger crowd didn't help. Actually, it backfired, right? There are other situations where having a larger crowd really helped. It's all about the competing forces. For those certain type of decisions, it's beneficial to have a larger crowd. At the same time, for other decisions, it's not beneficial or hurtful to have larger crowds. It's all about the proportions of such decisions for certain tasks. For the NFL task, the proportion of cases where larger crowd help are not that many, although it's still better, it's still more than the cases where having larger crowds didn't help. Okay? For the city task, the proportion, the middle proportion, was larger than the NFL task.
Okay, so if I understand this correctly, the first graph you showed, slide 2 or slide 3, when they were going down, what was the hypothesis about the difficulty level then?
Okay, so that's a single decision. If we are talking about single decisions, right? Okay. For any game or for any city pair, that can really happen, right? Actually, we have lots of graphs showing this. But we're talking about a horizon of multiple decisions. Decisions across 256 games and pairs, 120 pairs, right? If you have graphs like this or like this or like this, and we take the average, we want to see the aggregate effect. Yeah. And as a result, actually, if you take the average, it does show, on average, a larger group will be better than a small group, okay? It's just like not as much as predicted by the Condorcet theorem. And for a particular data size or season, it's not always monotonically increasing.
Okay, that's clear, thank you.
All right. Okay, how much time do we have?
30 minutes. 30 minutes.
30 more minutes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Including discussion.
All right, let's move on. The Condorcet theorem cannot be generalized directly, just nicely, I'll come back to the point, from single to multiple decision context. Crowd wisdom or accuracy will not always increase or decrease monotonically with the size, as we have shown. Small crowds of around 9 people perform really well in 2 real-world tasks, the NFL and the city task, and many simulated tasks, right? And able to capture most of the wisdom by the whole crowd, and in some cases, exceeded, if we have the select crowd. Members of functioning small crowds do not have to be the elites like the selected ones. Arbitrary crowds sometimes work too, especially when the individual differences among the crowd numbers are not big. This is a mid-session summary. I'll use the time to show more about the selection thing. Because in the previous slides, we show the selection help a little bit, but not much for the NFL task. But what we did was not really useful way, because we wasted the first 128 games, right? We only use the cross prediction on the next 128 games. So we did some variations, and we want to test different methods of selection. And this is what we did as a follow-up. And we tested mainly 3 different selection methods. And we tested more. I just here report 3. The first one is called extensive search. What happened in the first week is there's no data for you to select anybody. So you just go with the whole crowd, right? But coming from week 2, you start to have data on the previous weeks. You can do selection. For extensive search, first we randomly select n experts, ranging from 1 to the whole crowd size. And we get accuracy of a crowd consisting of those randomly selected experts and in the previous week or weeks. So basically like a fitting. We look back to see how accurate they were before. And we repeat it 20,000 times. Basically, for each crowd, think about crowd size of 5, we chose 20,000 different random groups, and we want to find the best group. And we repeated this whole process for any size from 1 to 27, because 27 is the largest, the smallest crowd, whole crowd. And we chose the crowd with the highest fitting accuracy among all sizes. Do you understand? For each size, we have 20,000 groups, and we did it for each size, and we look back, choose the best one among all the groups. So it's a very extensive search. We're looking for the best group. And we did that for each week. It's like a rolling window from week, we can, based on week 1 data, predict week 2, based on weeks 1, 2 data, we get week 3, so on and so forth. So what is the accuracy of this selection method? Not as good as the whole crowd. Okay? So we did so much computation. We tried really hard to find the very best. No, it didn't work. You get the idea of overfitting? Do you know the idea of overfitting? This is a real-world demonstration of really bad overfitting. Okay? All right. Now we try a different way. So we think, okay, we only choose the best group. How about we choose the best group for each size? Size 3, we choose the best group of size 3. And then we choose the best group of size 5, 7, so on and so forth. And we let them, we form a committee of those committees, and we let them vote. Okay? So that's what we did here. And here's the result. Doesn't work. Yeah, we tried really hard. It still didn't work. Okay, so the last method we try is called the heuristic search, right? It's just like what we did similarly before. So for each week, we calculate each expert's accuracy in the previous week. We just select the top n experts, ranked by their past accuracy. And we get the cost prediction in the next week, and we do the selection again. It's very simple, right? You ignore, or you do not do this formulations of different groups. We just choose the top n experts and form a group of those people. And this is what happened with different sizes. N equals 1 means you always go with the best experts in the previous weeks. And this is 7, and this is 9. 7, 9, they're quite close. And best one is 7. Best is not really that impressive, right? We're talking about the difference between 653 and 6059. But this is the best we can do. But isn't that interesting? The best crowd, selected crowd, in this case, was formed by the heuristic method. You just go with the top n of 7 people that performed the best in the past. Okay. And we also did some analysis, why this happened. We also find a similar results. If there's a larger variation among the experts, it's better to select. If there's a lower variation among the experts, it doesn't work that much. Okay, so the real take-home messages. To solve problems or make good decisions, just like I said at the beginning of the talk, right? We can either use smart heuristics on our own, just we're our own device, or rely on our own agency, or we take advantage of other people's intelligence, the wisdom of crowds, right? We rely on other people. A small crowd of around 9 people, hopefully as I've shown enough, are sufficiently wise in most of the tasks. That requires the committee making not one, but multiple decisions. Also, small select crowds do not improve the crowd wisdom much in tasks where individuals do not differ that much, like in the NFL task. I didn't show you what happened in the city task by the different search methods. Basically, selection can really help in a city task, where individuals differ quite a lot in their accuracy and expertise. So the implications of this whole research, especially the last one about selection, is kind of interesting, and I don't know how to take it. But I'm coming from China, right? This is a country of 1.4 billion people. And you can imagine the individual differences must be huge. And what is the top decision-making body of the country? It's called the Politburo of the Communist Party, of one-party country, right? So this is the 18th Politburo of the Chinese Communist Party. It consists of 7 people, and this is the president, all right? Recently had some controversy with John Oliver's show, Okay, you can Google that. And this is the current one. They were just elected last year, and it composed of, and this guy is in the middle, and 6 other people, 7. Actually, I did some dig on the history. This is the 19th one, right? So the Communist Party had 19 of those Politburos already, and the largest size of the Politburo was 15. The smallest size is 5. It's hovered around 9. So in the most populous country of the whole world, the decision-making body, the highest body of decision-making resides on those 7, 9, maximum 15 people. Okay, that's it, my talk. Oh, sorry. There's some other thing I want to show you guys. I promised you to talk about some real football. Okay, and I found those 2, how can I, Charlie, can you help me with this? Maybe. No. This one first?
Is it this one first?
Yeah, and the other one, you can also open the other one.
Or was that keynote? It was PowerPoint.
That is here. Okay. About tonight's game, or today's games. Okay, so this is a website called Football Predictions. It's very straightforward. Predictions about football, the real football. Okay, so those are the 3 games, and of course, most people will be interested in this game. And you click on Analysis. So here, the website's prediction is Germany going to win by 1 goal. And, I can't. Where is it?
You can scroll to
Yeah, scroll down. The other way. All right. Okay. If you're betting on sports, which I'm pretty sure at least one of you, or some of you are betting on sports, those are the numbers you can rate from different betting websites. And it's kind of hard to understand those numbers, but if you once bet before, you will understand those numbers. Okay, what I'm interested in is this session, or visitors' prediction. So as a visitor, as a person who's interested in predicting this game, it's kind of like crowd, right? And you get the crowd prediction. You don't have to predict, you just show the results. So 80% of the crowd, the interested crowd, predicted Germany gonna win this game, and about 10% predicting otherwise. Well, this going to be an upside? Upside? Or it's just gonna be the case the favorite gonna win? Let's find out. Okay. Another one, not related to crowd prediction, but I find it's you are all in Leo's talk on fast and frugal trees, right? So this is the interesting case. You can formulate it as a fast and frugal tree, but it's basically elimination by aspects. So BBC used 7 cues to choose the eventual champion of this World Cup. At each step, it eliminates teams. The first one, be seeded. You know, each groups, they are not formed randomly, right? There's a seeded member of the group. There are 8 groups, so choose the one. Eliminate the ones that are not seeded. So let's reduce the teams from 32 to 8. That's the first one. Second one, do not be the host. So Russian performed really well, but it cannot go too long. All right, so Russian was eliminated. Keep it tight. That means defense, right? So if you're too leaky, you give up too many goals, you cannot win the champion. And Poland was ruled out. And the fourth one from Europe, well, you know, it's based on historical record, right? Okay, then Brazil and Argentina were out. I mean, their performances are not so spectacular so far, right? It's kind of on the way. And have the best goalkeeper. It's quite important. I was kind of surprised by this cue, but it helped. You know, safe. And there must be some quantitative measure to measure how good a keeper is. And Portugal is out. They gave up too many goals, okay? And have the experience. That means the average experience of the team members. How many reps? You know, they represent the country. And France, it's a very young team. So Belgium and Germany left. Do not be the defending champions. They could tell us at the first round, you know, do not be the champions. And Germany was automatically out, right? So according to this elimination by aspects, 7-step process, Belgium would be the champion. So far, they performed quite strongly. But, you know, I also like watching soccer. I mean, obviously, I'm a sports fan. Last time Belgium performed, I predicted Belgium to win the European Cup. I was very disappointed. Okay, so give you some guys to think about, you know, the World Cup and tonight's game. Okay, now question.
But you should have given them before the World Cup started, so we have now poor predictions.
Well, you need to do your research, right? But this one is before the World Cup starts, but this one is more dynamic.
Yeah.
It's always changing, right? So, I mean, there are lots of sources of information here. Crowd, interesting crowd. You have betting websites, those odds. You can go with the odds. And usually, if you go with the betting odds, it's a very good predictor of the outcome of the game. And considering there must be some kind of manipulation behind. But I'm way over the time. So question and Q&A session.
Okay, so me and